Welcome to Timberborn and the Settlement of the Steeltide. We're playing the Terraces map on hard mode, and at cycle 15, we've got the beginning of an established colony. In this episode, we're going to completely redo our tank and water supply, start upgrading our food, as well as build a ridiculous bridge to nowhere. So we've just entered a 27-day drought. And in this drought, one of the things I want to take care of is improving our pumping situation. So you notice in this little river here, I've got all our main pumps working and they're dumping into this large tank. And I've also got these tanks down here. Now, unfortunately, these are not very efficient. I'm losing a lot of time to the pumpers walking back and forth. Also, this water is not very deep. So what I'd like to do is extend our downriver dam area here and make this into kind of our primary supply of water. So I think we have the opportunity to really expand how much water is being stored here. First thing I'm going to do is destroy these pumps. I've had them down there, but I don't really think they've been worthwhile, just because of all the time that we've lost walking back and forth. Now for this space, I'm thinking of expanding it even higher. So I'm going to tear out all of this food right in here, and I'll just shift it down a bit. We'll replace what we tore out with other spots here and there. Now, for this construction, what I'm thinking is if we could expand all of this space all the way out to the edges. So for example, if we were all the way out here, and we're going to take that all the way up to the edge of the cliff. So something like that. We're going to take this water and make it flush with the top of the mesa. And we'd basically repeat that on all sides here. Now, to make this a little bit easier to build, we're going to have to tear out a few things. Let's tear out these trees up here, as well as these plants down on the edge. That taken care of, we can now put down the rest of the levees. So what I would like to do is replace these with sluice gates, and then we're basically going to continue that levee all the way up here. We're going to square everything off. This is going to be a big investment. We do have a ton of logs though, so I think we can afford it. Now, we've got the edges of this kind of set up, but now we've got to get it set so that people can get easy access to it. So we're going to build a few extra marks. So we're going to build a few platforms there. Now, to speed all this construction up, I'm going to make use of the bridge technique again. So the bridge technique is, again, that technique that allows you to build multiple things in parallel. And so since we've had that number cruncher from last episode, we're getting a lot of science. I'm going to splurge on one of those really long bridges. And with that built, it would basically let the beavers build each of these columns in parallel. And we're just going to repeat that process all the way down. And I'm going to repeat that bridge technique here. As soon as these trees are torn out and they finish being cut, we'll repeat the same process. If we look at how deep this is going to be, it's going to be about 5 deep. And if I look at our deep water pumps, they can go down a minimum of 6. So we could actually potentially make this pond even deeper, especially with this jagged parts in the middle. And while we have dynamite, we are missing extract, which would let us dynamite more at a time. So we should probably start making extract in the background here. And that's going to come through the centrifuge. And it takes 200 horsepower, and that could go right next to our explosives factory. Well, let's save some space in case we need another explosives factory later. What I'm going to do is just temporarily put some power right there. Again, all of this should be done before they finish that dam. While we're here, this bad water pump doesn't do anything, so I'm going to destroy it. And before I forget, we're also going to need a place to store all of that material. So I'll put down a medium tank, and I'm going to have this store the extract. Back up at the dam, I can see we've got our first suspension bridge done. You can see that they're building all of that, and we've clear-cut these trees on the edge. So now it's time to repeat that exact same process over here for another bridge. The other thing I'm keeping an eye on, I've noticed that our food supply, it's slowly inching down. Now, while the beavers work on that, let's address that. I think one of the things we could do is unlock some extra food that has kind of a better density. We have a lot of crops that are basically kohlrabi, and honestly, they're a little bit lame as a food source because you can't multiply them when you process them or cook them. Something we haven't used yet is a food factory. And a food factory, as you can see here, basically will multiply any individual food that we harvest after it's processed. And so in this one, corn is looking like a pretty easy one that we could set up. Of course, the only catch is that this needs to be powered by something. Well, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to let some of these be harvested as kohlrabi, and then I'm going to immediately replace them with corn. then what we're gonna do is we're gonna build way up high on this area. We're gonna put a food factory in there as well as an engine to power it. Especially because we're so close to all these trees here, that's gonna be a perfect place to feed in fuel for that engine. And then as that food gets pulled away, we can go ahead and put in corn. Now, while I'm here, another thing that we can take care of is we notice that these medium warehouses, they're all completely full of kohlrabis, even though our food overall is falling down, which tells me that these farmers are basically wasting a lot of time probably carting excess food all the way back into town. We could potentially save that by replacing some of these with large warehouses. And that's why I put some of this dynamite in here. So if I were to destroy this, I would get all of the kohlrabi back. And then I'm going to put down one of the new large warehouses in. And so what we can do is we can make one of these basically hold all the kohlrabi. And then I can put the other one will be corn to be processed at the food factory. And then we can put in food rations in this last one. With all that complete, we can move it over to the new warehouse. Destroy this one as well. Make sure they pick up all this because this is actually our food. This is 66 food all crushed into that rubble there. And this second large warehouse, that's going to hold our corn. We'll empty this one. This is going to hold our rations. Hopefully this should help our food situation a bit. Corn will take at least 10 days to grow, so we've got a bit to see. But we'll keep an eye on this 800 number up here for food. One thing I did notice is that our centrifuge was not working. And that's because I built our power shafts incorrectly. So the power shafts, they have to go into the middle part of this building. Connecting it to the edge here apparently does not work. So while I am down here, let's do something else to keep up that food number. Why don't we use some of this farmland down here? Farmhouse on the edge here would be able to reach everything. And if I shifted these stairs over one, so we could put down a large warehouse for more storage or whatever we're gonna grow. And honestly, I think we should put more cassava in here because we have all those fermenters, but they're basically chewing through everything that we're producing. And that's going to be another one that's going to multiply. Now, while they are finishing that, I have been kind of ignoring our main water levels. And I think that's kind of bad because while we have all our water in our tanks, our main dam is not looking that great. In fact, we're down to the last level of water. And that's because being unattentive, I just let them put everything into our tanks. And so we still have a total of 12 days. So this is actually going to be pretty tight. Because I wasn't paying attention, some of our food may actually die up here for this time around. I forget how many days it takes for a one level of water to die. We'll probably keep this food, we'll be alive. This food might die out because I'm not seeing it get any higher. But that's too bad. We'll have to really double down and see if we can get this main dam done in time so that next season we're in a better spot. Speaking of that dam, how are we looking? Well, we've got the first bridge all done, and I can see they're starting to move on to the second bridge over there. So that is a sign that we can continue on to the next bridge. And now that I'm no longer distracting them with all this other construction for food, you can see that they're going to build this much faster. What I'm going to start doing is just laying down the framework for the final bridges to work around the edges here. It looks really funny, but this is going to really speed up the time it takes to build this dam. Oh, I can see that we've got corn finally being harvested, and it looks like hopefully this is going to translate into corn rations being produced soon. There we go. There's our first corn rations being produced. Yeah, that multiplier is really handy. I can see all the beavers are quickly coming to go grab the corn. It must be one of the preferred foods. I'm also noticing that I've got a full supply of metal blocks, which is great because metal blocks are needed for all these new things. But I don't like the dead space of our factories not doing anything. So we should probably put down at least one more warehouse to hold more of that. And at 5 days to go, we're making very good progress on this new extension. Now, unfortunately, we are going to run out of water pretty soon in this upper river. I'm guessing this is probably going to be our last day of water up here. Our food situation is looking better though. You can see it definitely inching back up. And I think that's really in thanks to our corn here that's going through the rations. And then our new supply of cassava has finally come in. And so that's going to keep our fermenter nice and busy. Now it's really a race against the clock to see if we can finish this before the wet season comes and goes again. And there goes our water. Soybeans died very quickly. They are not tolerant to drought at all. Everything else though, we'll get at least a few more days, so we'll be able to harvest a few things. Plus, our food down here is secure, so this is not any threat for us. It'll just be very annoying to have to replant everything. Yeah, that is bad planning on my part. It's very deceiving how much water you can put in this large tank. Like, I wouldn't doubt if one of these large tanks is really holding like half the water of this upper dam. And we're back to the wet season. Just in time, because things are starting to look a little dry up here. Let's get these pumps going again. We'll see how much we can fill in this short period, because we're only going to get about 6 days. Now, the good news is we are starting to get some height in this dam. So even if we can't fill it up all the way, we're at least going to be able to get some. In fact, I can start deleting some of this inner dam now that we don't need anymore. Especially so we can use these. So we can configure these to be a little bit more efficient in terms of letting water out. We have all of these goods down here. At some point, we're going to have to climb in here and get all these. Probably at the same time we start deepening this with dynamite. Oh, and I forgot to cut that in time. We got a little bit of flooding. That's fine. We'll just cut that off a bit. Hopefully that didn't kill too many of our food. Kohlrabi might die. I think our corn is resilient enough. It will survive that. Especially since this is flat, all of this is just going to dry off really quick. There we go. No plants lost. I do expect us to get a warning any day now that the drought's going to come back. But at least we got a pretty big boost to the amount of water we'd have in here. In fact, we'll just prioritize this to see if we can get one more layer in. We're going to mix it up with bad tide this time. We haven't had a bad tide for a while. Now, luckily, we still do have our bad tide diversion system. One thing that I am going to do, that some viewers pointed out last time, is this is a fairly aggressive contamination threshold. At 20%, some beavers could still get contaminated. So I'm going to drop that down to 5% on both of these sides. I just realized that should be up a little bit higher if I'm going to bring all the water back up in this space too. Bad tide hits in the morning, and I think we got just enough completed on this that we can get one more layer. Let's see if I can flood in one more layer. I believe the water source slows down as you get close to the end, but hopefully this isn't going to drain too much from our main dam. We've got 0.3 days left before it shuts off entirely. Every little drop counts. And here comes the bad tide. And there comes our diversion system. Actually, that is really... It did not happen last time. It's kind of funny how it split out that way. Well, I don't like that. I don't like that at all. You know, I wonder if I accidentally had a block there in the past. You know, I bet I did, and it just got kind of cut off. Let's try that. Can we rush people in there? Just a temporary thing. But yeah, let's put an extra block there, just in case. And of course, he's going to go try to walk directly into it. Okay, that's the conundrum. Don't build this, then. Yeah, turn around. I wanted you to build it from up down, from up here, not through this edge. I don't think I can force them to do that. Okay, we're just going to live with it. I don't think it's flowing backwards any now that it's stable. We'll just make sure to fix that at the end of this bad tide season. Other than that, I think this is going to finish up for this dry season, especially since this bad tide's only 11 days. You know, compared to what we've been having to deal with lately, that is nothing at all. I see our food supply is still kind of dwindling down. We're at 700. Part of that, I think, was the system shock of losing all this food to the dry season. But we might want to put a little bit of extra food in here anyways. Yeah, let's take care of the cassava, I think. So taking a look at this, I can see that we still don't have enough cassava to be fermented. Also, oddly, we're looking low on berries. I wonder if they started eating the berries for a little bit. So I'd like to put down 2 farmhouses at least. So we're gonna do that. We're gonna increase this space right here. Once we finish that bridge, we'll have room for cassava over here too. Now, with all of that done, I'm thinking the next thing we could do is start planning on how to move this water pumps over to this side. Now, before we do that, we should probably see if we can deepen it. Now, I mentioned before, the pumps can go down 6 levels, and this is right now 5 levels deep. So I think we could basically straighten this out a bit if we could. We can build kind of a haphazard stairs down there. And then once we're down here, we can start laying dynamite. So we'll unlock the double dynamite so we can take advantage of that new extract. And we're going to start just with everything here. In fact, we can unlock a triple dynamite too and take care of this while we're here. And there are all those bridges done. So we can reclaim everything in here. We don't actually need these bridges here long term. We'll leave a road so they can access around the edges. So we've got 2 days left in this bad tide, and by and large, it's been mostly uneventful. We've got all our large tanks topped off, and I did that even though I was going to empty this large dam, just because I knew it was such a short drought. Like, it didn't really matter. All this is going to fill up very shortly. You can see over here, we are starting to make progress on our TNT. I expect that to be finished very soon. And you can see that our food is also starting to finally inch back up. So we're back up roughly to about 1,000 food. And just in time for the wet season, our first round of TNT is all ready. Still looks like a very messy bottom, but that does give us more storage. In fact, with this, we can probably get some stairs and start getting the rest of this. In fact, to speed up construction, I'm losing a lot of time to these beavers having to walk back and forth. I wonder if I should move some of the TNT right nearby. Wet season is back, automated gates, redirected everything as planned. Water is starting to flow again. Now, what I was mentioning earlier, I think we lose a lot of time with the beavers walking back and forth trying to deliver all of that TNT. So I'm gonna see if I can just speed that up by having the haulers move the TNT right close. So we'll temporarily empty all of that. That should get them to push all our TNT all at once up here. Now it's going to be a lot faster to get everything dynamited. So looking at how we're going to even that out, that's going to go at least 3 deep, and then everything here can go at least 1 more layer deep. Right, that looks a lot better. You still have to go a ways for the extract, but at least for the TNT, that part's going to go quick now. And I can see I've got a lot of these beavers not doing anything right now. I'm going to keep a few of these pumps going just so we can keep these topped off. And while we've got the wet season, I'm also going to get this flowing all the way. Actually, I can open this floodgate completely flush now. There's no point in keeping it separate. So, drought and not a bad tide. Usually our droughts tend to be longer for us. So I'm expecting maybe even a 30-day drought by this point. We do have most of our TNT laid down. We're kind of exhausting all our TNT. We don't have a ton. As long as I can dynamite part of this, I can start building our structure on top for our new pumps. Which brings me to another part of this planning. I want to pull these blueberries out. For this part here, I think this is going to be a good area to store. And if we pumped on top of here. So the dedicated berries, I think we can get rid of these kohlrabi. We've got more of it down here, and that's kind of a weak garbage food. I don't even know if the beavers get a happiness bonus from it. Well, I guess they do. So we should have some of it. I think what I'm going to do is pull out these berries and then replace this kohlrabi. Continue to dynamite more and more. I really care about at least dynamiting this half of the pool first, if that's what we're going to build our water supply on top of. A 17-day drought. That's really easy. The random number generator has been very forgiving to us for these last couple of cycles. Now that we've got this mostly cleaned up, let's figure the best way to utilize it. I know there's still resources down here. I'm gonna get those back eventually. For now, let's give ourselves a blank slate to work with. What I'm thinking, ideally I'd like to have some large water tanks lined up relatively close back here. Then the pumps can be immediately across from them. Let's say that we had a pump like that. It means we're gonna have a road somewhere there, and then we're gonna have the pumps lined up here. We're gonna need more supports all through here lined up all the way across. Now, I could do the brute force way, which is basically just taking a bunch of platforms and throwing them in. Wonder if we could make use of some of those new 3D platforms. There's ways that we could more efficiently kind of branch across. Here's what we're gonna do. First off, for this corner in the back here, it's just gonna get regular platforms. Keep that part simple. Next, for the other parts, I am gonna use the platforms. So the idea is that we're gonna put just enough foundation on the edge here, and I can buy some of the more expensive overhangs. I'm gonna basically make an overhang over the edge of the pool, just at the surface. And then we can repeat that process all the way down. Comparatively, this is probably more expensive than just spamming platforms, but I really want to get more use out of these regular overhangs. And in fact, we can kind of tear out some of this stuff too. We can tear out our floodgates, we can tear out some of those stairs. And then we could even continue this all the way across. That's going to be our plan. And then we should probably have a staircase down here just to get access to continue dynamiting if we want to. Get all those supplies out. Okay, I think that is a pretty good setup for now. So let's get them building that, and then we can come back later and then move our pumps over. Now, something I did notice while I was looking at our supplies, we're out of scrap metal. And these guys have finished doing everything, and there is no more to get. So at this point, we've got two options. All our scrap refining is here. We've got additional ruins here, kind of bathing in toxins. We've got a mine here for an underground ruins, or we've got these ruins over across here. In terms of raw proximity, probably this is closer. In that case, let's see what we can do about making a road over there. I could just make a boring stairs all the way down and stairs up, but I don't know. I think maybe it would be kind of cool to build a giant bridge. We do like a very large arch bridge. This might look kind of interesting. Let's see, we'll start with this. We'll see where that will be, and then we can shift things over a bit. Actually, yeah, that's going to work out perfect. We could even move this back. I think we could go back, what, one more layer? And then we can just continue this over, I think in a similar pattern over here. But we don't need it to go quite as far. In fact, we probably could even finish it just like that. Here we go. I'm thinking something like that would be really interesting. And maybe to be symmetrical, we'll make that another levee. This is completely a vanity act. There's no need to build something so complicated to cross, but I really want to try out some of this new construction. Now, this is going to be a difficult thing to actually build. This part we can build fine, but I think to build the other side, we're actually going to have to somehow get over here manually without anything else. So at least for now, let's build a road all the way down. And then since everything hinges off of this top piece, we're actually going to have to build stairs all the way up here. There we go. And since this is oddly going to take a long time to build, I am going to just put the scavengers up here anyways in the meantime. Okay, I think that looks interesting. Completely ridiculously overkill, but I really want to use some of those 3D buildings. Let's take a look back here to see how they're doing. Pretty good. We got an army of builders coming in. With only a few days, they've quickly built everything here. With all of this nice and square, now let's go ahead and put down our structures. So, first thing we're going to need is deep water pumps. So I'm going to put down a lot. These are going to eventually replace all of these. This is going to connect here, and now we've got space for our tanks. Let's see, I want to see how these would line up. If I just stack them like that, I could fit fairly good amount in there. So we're going to start something like that. We'll make sure that all these are done before they attempt to build that giant bridge. Now that we have access down here, we can also start dynamiting some of this excess space out as well. And then as those new tanks come online, I'm going to start emptying out all these little small ones. We're going to eventually delete those and get that space back. And, you know, I might delete these large tanks at a certain point. I'd empty them out, but I don't know if I need them over there, you know, long term, especially if all the pumps are being moved over to this side. Now, as we hollow this out, there's something else we could potentially use this water for, and that is to boost our well-being, which is still quite poor. So we could access a swimming pool. Let's take a look. What does a swimming pool look like? It is very long and narrow. If we put those two platforms down like that, that would give us freedom to maybe line up some swimming pools this way. And I'll start with two. I might make another row over here, or I might save that later for additional pumps. Undecided. It depends how big our colony gets. The drought's over. So we did almost empty our main dam again, even though we only had 10 days. And that's largely because I kept a lot of pumping going for the duration. So we're going to start bringing some of these pumps online, but I'm going to prefer the ones down here now. And all our new pumps are busy at work filling out our new supply of water. So we're inching up to around 3K supply, and I'm going to keep these running all through the wet season. Just fill up as much as we can. And speaking of haulers, I would like to start having more in our colony. I've kind of kept our population kind of steady for a little bit, mainly because I didn't know if we had enough water. But I think with this extra supply, that gives us a little bit more space. So I think it's okay to put in a few more people. In fact, one of the things I'm going to do is maybe unlock the advanced breeding prod. Oh, actually, I realized I don't have treated planks yet. So let's cancel that. We're going to use regular breeding pods for a bit. We'll see how that does with our population. And as we think about these breeding pods, I did notice we're out of berries, which is surprising. I guess this is not enough berries to keep everything going. Well, we don't really have a lot of great options for where to extend our berry supply. This is a little annoying, but what I could do is pull out these soybeans. They're the best kind of area that's adjacent to a forester. Yeah, I think what we're gonna have to do is we're gonna have to find other farmland to put in the soybeans instead. In fact, we could probably make a much bigger plot for the soybeans as well. And we'll tear out all these. These are gonna be more berries. We go through a lot more of them than I was expecting. I also wonder if some of the beavers were grabbing it because some of these in town were not being filled. And where could we put soybeans instead? Well, maybe we could do that down here. If we have enough space, we could even put a medium warehouse over here so the farmers don't have to go far. And the drought's back, and another forgiving 18 days. And I've been expecting up in the 30 lately, but I'll take 18-day droughts. That's very easy. Up with those soybeans, I'm going to put a farmhouse up on the water, and then tear out all this excess trees and use that other pocket of green space. We've got a lot more food going on now, and our food has been pretty stable at 1.4k. Plus, we've got a ton of excess corn stored now. So that's going to be perfect for the food rations because that's a multiplier by 5. I can see everything's inching up. In fact, we're probably hitting capacity for corn rations. And how is the vanity project looking? Well, it's starting now. I think I kept the beavers busy with the main water cistern, so they're only now getting to this. And you can see here, they could build over as long as they can get to the foundation, the root of the overhang. And that's why they could only get so far on this bridge before they had to go to the other side. I think if I rushed these columns here, that's going to speed everything else up, because I think those are kind of the load-bearing things that everything else depends on. We should also get these going so we can get those scavengers back online. Now, something I've added is a few extra monuments in our downtown area. There was no really good reason for me not to do this earlier, but I put in a laborer monument, and this almost on its own boosted us up from 11 well-being close to 15. And I stuck in a beaver bust kind of in the corner here. And the good news is both of these start to influence some of these beavers while they sleep for an additional boost. And that's going to give us an extra level of happiness, which is in turn going to give us a lot of perks for movement speed and lifespan. Other than that, we are looking okay. We've got 3 days left in this season. Water is still good at 4k. We are running low on water down here. And that's again because, one, we have got one pump going on, but two, this is a supply to keep everything else populated. And you can see these gates, occasionally they'll open up just a little bit to keep everything down below at capacity. And over the wet season or over the dry season, that slowly eats into this. So we're going to have to revisit expanding this dam yet again to take care of all this new green space that we rely on. But we've got 2 days left in our drought, and I think we have just enough time to finish our bridge. Which, that's actually pretty funny. This guy can work on this span from the other side. That's impressive engineering there. With that, the bridge is complete. Yeah, I'm satisfied with that. It has a nice, pleasing arch to it. I think what we could eventually do, too, is help address this long, roundabout way to get down here. In reality, it's really not that far from our district center. We could make a road down here and another bridge or archway that connects down to it somehow. But with the return of the wet season, I think that's going to wrap up this episode. We've got a massive new supply of water, lots of extra food, so our food supply is going very well, and we made this ridiculous bridge to nowhere. As always, I hope you guys enjoy these videos, and I hope to catch you next time.